Hello and welcome to Tim's BMW Repairs and Information. Well, today is servicing day, so I've got to do the 8 Series, which is back there, 6 Series, which is out on the road at the moment, so I've got no room on the drive. Got to do my daughter's 118IM Sport, change the washer pump on that, that's been great fun so far, and an oil change on the Mini. It's the first time I've done an oil change on this car. I've only had it just over a year, so it's time for an oil change. So what we do is we go through all the tools that are needed and the parts we need and which sort of oil we're going to use. So let's get on with it. Right, first of all, let's see what tools we need. I've got them in the back of the car. First of all, that's an 8mm Allen key. That's for the drain plug. We might need an extension on it, all depends on how hard and tight the garage put it on last time. They seem to have this sort of habit of doing up things excessively tight, but we'll see. And then we need a 27mm socket for the canister. There we go. Obviously 27mm sockets usually come as part of big socket sets, but you can get sockets on their own, and I'll put links up for a 27mm socket for 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 and 1/2 inch drive. That's on a 1/2 inch drive. And after that, the parts we need. Well, we need an oil filter, so there we go, and that's the part number on that. Using a Bosch one. I prefer sort of name brands rather than the sort of weird stuff you can get from Amazon. I'll put a link up for that. And then what we need, obviously, is some oil. So we've got Castrol Edge 0W30. That's a fully synthetic oil. Perfect for the Mini, should do nicely. And then we need a funnel, and that's to get the oil back into the container after we've finished draining everything. And of course we'll need a big oil catcher as well. Righty-ho, well, it's just a case of getting under the car, which isn't much fun today, to be honest. It's just a bit drizzly. We've had some weird weather in the UK recently. Thunderstorms, days and days and days of it being really hot, and now the weather's sort of broken. It's just sort of horrible and drizzly. But right, let's have a look at what we've got to get to. First of all, here's the canister, 27mm Boss on it, so we'll get a wrench on that, and it does warn you that it's only 20 Newton meters on it. 25 Newton meters. That tells people not to tighten them up too much because it's made out of plastic, and they don't need to be tight because they've got an annular O-ring inside, so they really don't need to be tight at all. And yeah, it's very hard to get them off if they've been done up tight before, because as I say, it's just a plastic boss and you've got to be really careful you don't break it. Rightio, so that's the oil filter. And the drain plug is over this side of the car, and there we go. That's the one. Got a copper washer on it, which we replace. Now there's 2 drain plugs on the Mini. Don't undo that one, that's for the gearbox. This is the engine one here, which is an 8mm Allen key. Yep, got a bit of cardboard, so I'll be okay to get under the car. Get that out a bit further. So the first thing I'll do is I'll remove the sump plug, and let's see how tight that's been put on. So if your 8mm Allen key doesn't fit, you're undoing the wrong bolt, because the other ones are 5. Right, let's get that oil cap down in place. There we go. And let's undo that bolt. Righty-ho. Ratchet going the right way. These often need quite a heave. All depends how tight the garage has done it up. We've done it though. Just get it loose. Don't drop the bit in the thing. I retrieve it. Fortunately, did it straight away rather than wait until I've finished. There we go. And then we'll just use the bit to undo the oil drain plug. Got a cloth ready, because that's going to get all over my hands, so I just use the bit rather than the wrench. Get ready to get that out of the way. There we go. And we'll just leave that to drain for a while. And I'll wash my hands with a cloth. Right, while the oil's draining, let's loosen off the canister. So we'll get the 27mm socket in there. Make sure it goes right on. There we go. Haven't got much room in here. There we go, so that's the socket on the canister. Give that a pull. Yeah, that's been done up extremely tight. Absolutely no need for that because, as I say, it's got an annular O-ring. It's not as though you have to tighten it up to stop it leaking. No, it's got an O-ring around the outside. Right, I have to put a bit more effort. Right, here we go. I put a bit more effort on it and we're coming undone now. Still pretty tight. There we go. Coming loose now. We'll watch out for it dripping oil because we'll have to move the catch can. Now, as the top of the canister comes undone, what should happen is any oil which is within here returns to the sump. That's the theory. Unfortunately, if you use aftermarket filters, what can happen is that they won't release properly and then the oil stays in the canister, which will then have quite a bit of oil come out. Which is why we take it nice and slowly, keep an eye on it, see if any oil is going to start pouring out. Right, at this point, that's loose enough to undo by hand. So get the socket off. And when we do it up, we won't do it up anywhere near as tight. Right, let's keep an eye on that. Yeah, I can see oil starting to come around the sides. So be very careful with that. Start dripping oil in a minute, I should think. Keep turning it. That's it. There we go, oil coming out, so I'll get the catch can under there. Right, I've reverted to a larger catch can here. Oil is still coming out of the sump, so I can't use it in both places at once. Right, let's get the canister off. Should be nice and loose now. Any oil should now go in the catch can. Let's see what sort of filter we got. That's good. That looks exactly the same as the one I've bought, so that's a good start. That's a Wix one in there. Interesting. Righty ho, so that's good. The oil did release from the reservoir. Bit of oil left in there. That looks fine. Right, next thing we'll do is we'll swap over the oil filter and we'll put a new O-ring on it. The new O-ring on the canister lid. There we go. My hands are oily enough so I can put oil onto the new O-ring. You need a bit of oil on there or it's quite hard getting the lid back on. Then we poke the filter in the right way up, clicks into place, should be well held in there. Catch can's still underneath because we might push a bit of oil that way. Got the filter and the lid. Fit him in, start doing him up. Easy to do up to start with. Until we reach the O-ring, then it should tighten up a bit. And now we need the ratchet for that. Now you can see why it doesn't need to be done up tightly, because it's got that O-ring, large area O-ring. That canister lid isn't going to fall off, even if I did this thing up hand tight. So it don't need to be up tight at all. There we go. That'll do fine. Right, time to fit refit the sump plug and fill it with oil. Right, here we go. We've still got a few drops coming out of the sump plug. That's quite normal, can drip for hours. So let's put the sump plug back in. There you go, he's still dripping away. Got the new copper washer on it. Be very careful you don't drop the whole thing back into the catch can. That's something that I quite often do, I'm afraid. A bit on the cack-handed side. Get my wrench. There we go, there's the drain plug. Get my wrench in there. Really don't need to be done up tight. Bit of an effort there. Get that out. Don't drop the thing in the catch can. Clean it up a bit. Well, there we go. That's the sort of underneath stuff all done. Check that again a bit later, just to make sure it's not leaking. Right, well, the last thing we have to do is put the oil in, so we need a nice funnel, and we're using Castrol Edge 0W30. And it's very important for modern engines to use a fully synthetic oil, because oils these days are more than just lubricants. They're plasticizers and rubbicizers. They have anti-corrosion elements in them, and also defoaming agents and cleaning agents such as detergents. So they do a lot more than lubricate these days. And modern engines are quite complicated with variable valve timing and variable valve lift and so on, small oil bays. So it's very important that we change the oil every 10,000 miles or every year at the very most, because as an oil ages, it loses its viscosity and it gets very thin, picks up contaminants from the blow-by gases and by the petrol that goes through the engine as well, so it gets thinner and thinner. But more importantly, it loses the protection agents in it because they're highly volatile. So an oil that's been in an engine for 2 years might still be lubricating, but it's lost all the properties that you need to keep a modern engine healthy. So very important, 10,000 miles, 1 year change. And as you saw, it's quite easy to change the oil. Really only takes about half an hour. Takes a lot longer when you're holding a camera, but yeah, it really takes very little time at all. So if you just set aside some time once a year, change the oil for a decent 0W30 fully synthetic, and I prefer Castrol oils. I've been using those for years and have very few failures on the engines due to lubrication. Right, well, it's just a case of removing the cap, using a decent funnel, and need 2 hands to do the job, obviously, one to hold the funnel in place, one to pour the oil in. And for this mini engine we use all 4 litres of this, and once we put 4 litres in it, it will bring it right up to the top of the dipstick, and then you shouldn't have to add any oil at all until the next service. That is, unless you've got leaks or something like that, or other problems with the engine. It's a good double check that if you need to add oil, then something's going wrong. But I'm glad to say that over the year we've owned this, haven't had to add any oil at all, and it's been absolutely perfect. Right, let's get on with it. And finally what we'll do is we just decant the oil that was in the catch can back into the original container. And it's a good double check to make sure you actually haven't taken out more than you put in. And of course you'd be short of oil. So it's just a double check thing. We do use the dipstick to check the oil level, but to double check we make absolutely sure we haven't taken out more oil than we've put in. And if it fits back into that 4 litre container, we'll be fine. Right, there we go then, all done. 4 litres of lovely Castrol 0W30 fully synthetic in there, ready for another 10,000 miles or a year, and it's going to be perfect. And one last tip, the cloth you use for wiping your hands if you get a bit of oil on it is absolutely perfect for making the engine bay look a lot better. Tiny bit of oil on it, all the plastics on the engine are oil safe, and all you need to do is just give it a quick wipe over and it will start to look lovely. Just get in all these plastic bits around the engine, filters, e-box, and the battery covers and the e-box covers. Use it on all the metal. It's absolutely perfect for this sort of job. A little bit of oil stops corrosion as well on the metal parts. So there we go, that looks absolutely perfect. So thanks very much for watching, and thanks for subscribing, and keep all the comments coming. I really enjoy answering the comments and any questions you put to me. The YouTube channel is getting quite big now, so it takes a bit of time for me to get to all the comments, but I will get around to them eventually. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.